Hello everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to share with you our topic for today, which is the MEXT Japanese Government Scholarship. The reason why this makes me so happy is because this is the first scholarship that I got in 2014, so a long time ago. And the great thing about the MEXT Japanese Government Scholarship is, one, it is fully funded, which means that everything is paid for. Like, all you need to do is show up to the embassy with your passport and you're good to go. And also, it is a chance that you can come study in Japan. Japan is an amazing country to study at. It's peaceful, the people are loving. You're going to have an international community. You get a chance to make friends with students from all parts of the world. You will get a chance to build your life. You will get a chance to build your career. So I think going to Japan, studying in Japan is definitely an amazing opportunity. And also, I know that students are always like, oh my goodness, but am I going to have to learn the Japanese language? Am I going to study in Japanese? Yes, you will have to learn the Japanese language, but you will not necessarily have to study in Japanese. This is for research students. You do not necessarily have to study in Japanese, okay? There are tons of universities with English programs. So I did my entire studies in English, so you can definitely do your program in English. And the thing with this research student scholarship is that this is like the phase that leads you to doing, for example, master's, PhD, and professional courses. So this is what I'm going to be talking to you about, and this is the specific scholarship that I got. And I'm going to be reading to you because the core of the application is actually your research plan. What do you intend to research when you come to Japan? So I'm going to be reading to you my research plan, and I'll give you commentaries as I read it, but I also want you to learn. I'll be looking at it in hindsight, telling you the mistakes I made, telling you how you should make your own research plan better. Because yes, there are different aspects of the MEXT scholarship that is important, but the research plan is the core of it. And I'm going to walk you through all the documents that you need. I'm going to walk you through the key parts that you should pay attention to, and at the end of the video, I am going to share with you my research plan. So make sure you stick right through till the end of the video so you can get a sense of this core part of this application. What should I do? How can I stand out from the crowd? Because it is a competitive scholarship, and for you to be able to stand out from the crowd, you need to make sure that you have a good sense of what exactly you're doing with reference to your research plan, okay? And public service announcement, I work with students one-on-one from the start of your application process right through till the end. So if you want to work with me, there is a link in the description box. Click on it, sign up, and I'm going to be happy to work with you. And also, I decided to create worksheets for the MEXT Japanese Government Scholarship, because I know that, yes, I may not be there to be able to help you from the start till the end, but if I provide a worksheet to you, then you can be looking at the worksheet and going through your entire application. So there's a link in the description box that leads you to this worksheet. Definitely use it, and I hope that it guides you from the start of your application right through till the end. Grab your pens and papers. The first thing that we are going to do is I'm going to be walking you through the documents that are required when you apply for the MEXT Japanese Government Scholarship as a research student, which means pathway to get into a master's, a PhD, or a professional program. Here we are on the website, which is the application guidelines for the Japanese Government Scholarship for research students. And I want you to pay attention to these research students, because this is the placement that you're going to be placed in a particular program. Most times it's always going to be intensive Japanese language studies for 6 months, and also preparing for your entrance exam. And when you write your entrance exam 6 months later, you're going to get either into a master's program, a PhD program, or a professional program. But remember, sometimes some professors are like, oh, I want my student to start right away. So some students actually skip this stage and they begin their programs right away, okay? So this is the application guideline, the fields of study, then the things that are needed. One thing that I want you to pay attention to is the process. So it says here the call for applications is around April, and then you have the first screening, then the request for provisional acceptance to Japanese universities, submission of a placement reference application form, second screening, and the notification of results early next year. So this is the steps that you are going to be following if you are selected from one phase to the next phase, okay? And the most important thing that I want you to pay attention to, and what I'm going to be walking you all right now, is this particular documents, your application documents. So for this program, you actually need the application form, the placement preference application form, field of study and research plan, academic transcripts for all academic years of university attended, certification of graduation, recommendation letters, and then your medical certificate. So let me just show you what these documents look like. So the first one we are going to look at is the application form. As you can see here, 2024 application form for the Japanese Government Scholarship for research students. So this is what the form looks like, and you're going to have to fill in the various details, and I'm going to come back to this form later on when I want to talk to you about some key things that you have to watch out when you are applying for the MEXT Japanese Government Scholarship as a research student. The next document here is the 2024 placement preference application form for Japanese Government Scholarship for research student. Actually, the idea here is that there are some students who are already good in Japanese. They really do not want to study Japanese anymore because their level is already extremely high, for example N2, N1. So these students, what they do is they show their proof that they can speak Japanese, and immediately they get into different universities. So these students are like different. Not many students go through this process, but some do. If you already speak Japanese, you can just get directly into a university placement, and this is the form that you need to fill up. And then the other one is the field of study and research plan. So I'm going to be getting back to this part towards the end of the video, because this is where I am going to be reading to you what my research was about and guiding you on how to think about it, because this is like the core of your application. This is them looking at, do we want to pay for your studies? Do we think that your studies is worth it? Is it? So this is why this is like the core of it, and I'm going to be getting to it at the end of the video. And then the next one is a certificate of health. So one of the things about this particular thing is I realized that I heard from some students that people went to like just any doctors around to ask for them to write this type of recommendations. Yes, this has to be filled by a professional health practitioner, but make sure that the tests that are required, they run all the tests, because it's going to help you when you eventually get to Japan. Before you begin your academic year, you're going to get through another health check. So it is important that everything that is done here, the tests are done, and then it is written. Don't go through the back door, you guys. Don't go through the back door. Then the next one is the Japanese Government Scholarship Recommendation Letter form. So they give you like an idea of how they recommend, what the recommendation letter should look like. But here it says any other format of recommendation letters will be accepted. So what I did in my year was that, yes, I saw this form, but I went to my professors, and my professor actually had his own form that he was using to write recommendation letters for students. And I was like, okay, fine, no problem. He wrote it, and I took it to the MEXT Japanese Government Embassy, to the Japanese Embassy, and it was okay. So you can either use the form or not. And then the other thing that you need to do is, because in this particular application process, you have the documents that you have to submit. Also, you have to write an exam. For research students, you all are going to be writing an English and a Japanese exam. So here is a sample of the English exam questions. You see here, undergraduate and research students, and it's English, and this is in 2016. This is in 2016. Let me see. Yes, this is in 2016. And then you now have the questions. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the exams later on in the video. And then this is the Japanese exam. You see here, elementary, and then they ask you questions right through. So I'm going to talk to you all about that in a bit, because this is like part of the screening process. So the first thing that you need to make sure is have all of these documents, print them out, take your time, read them through back to back, take notes, make sure you understand everything that is going on and everything that you have to submit, okay? Right, so now I want us to look at the application form for the Japanese government scholarship, and there are certain key aspects that I want you to pay attention to. On the first page, they're just asking you for like your general information, and then they're asking for your background in case you have had like some studies in Japan before, and also your background of your studies so far, because they require, I think it's 16 years of study. That's why they are asking you from what year to what year, and then that was how many years, because they are hoping that when you're going to count total years of schooling, by that they're expecting that it should be at least minimum 16 years of study. The part of the application that I really want you to pay attention to is, they say here, field of specialization studied in the past, be as detailed and specific as possible. For example, in my case, I studied special needs education, which was leading me towards studying disability science, which is something that I think I forgot to tell you all, which reminds me of something that I wanted to talk to you all about. For the MEXT scholarship, they always prefer applicants that when you studied something at the undergraduate level and you're thinking about going to do your master's, let it be somehow related. I studied special needs education, which is educating children with disabilities, and then I was going in for my master's to study disability science. So you see how related that is, right? If I came in from, let's say, special needs education, that is educating children with disabilities, and then I was applying for example, international public policy, then the question is, what is the connection between both of them? And Japan is this place where they really prefer continuity. So it is important that you state exactly how you try to you make sure there is a link to increase your chances of getting it. Please make sure that there is a link. Okay, now let us get to the juicy part, and this is where I'm going to be talking to you all about motivation for studying in Japan. These are the core aspects of your application. Don't go talking about anime and Mount Fuji and how you like Toyota cars. No, that's not it. You have to state your motivation for studying in Japan in a way that it links to your particular study topic. It can be about animes, in case this thing is somehow related to your study. For example, I have always been interested in seeing how cultures change over time and how it is represented in movies, in media, and in other countries, or maybe in my country. The culture has changed over the years, and history has been told through cinema, through theater. But I realized that in Japan, as years have gone by, their culture and their history has been told through anime, through manga. So I'm interested in studying how history has changed over the years and how it is told in different cultures. So now I want to study in Japan to see how this has been represented in Japanese history has been represented in anime. Yeah, perfect. That is a motivation for you to want to come study in Japan, right? But if it is, oh, I always liked manga and I want to come here and I want to go to manga shops, and that's not going to cut it. That is not going to cut it. And what was the trigger for having an interest in Japan? This is also, make sure you link it to your topic, because that is extremely important. In the worksheets, I give you all tons of examples on how to answer these questions, because I give you all hints, I give you all prompts, I give you all examples, because this is the core of your application. You need to justify, why do you want to study what you want to study? And also, why do you want to study that thing in Japan? Why is that necessary? And then the other one is, what kinds of things do you think you can contribute to Japan and your home country through your experience studying in Japan? This is extremely important, you guys, because they are trying to get into your head about, remember, these scholarships provided by a government. And what governments do when they provide scholarship is that they want to see a level of return on investment. It is not just charity, you guys. I've always told you all, scholarships is not just charity. charity. Whoever is the scholarship providing body, they have a goal that they want to accomplish. And how are you going to be an ambassador to help them accomplish that goal? That is extremely important. So you need to make sure that you explain, for example, let's go back to our topic that I was talking about before, how culture has been preserved over time using different media sources. Then you can now say, by the time you're done with the program, you would like to come up with a collaboration between a particular media house in your country and animation production studios in Japan to see how we can blend through cultures that has changed over time because of the use of this media. For them it is animation, it is mangas, but for us it is actually cinema and movies. So I want us to have like conversations and possible exchange where we get to see how these cultures have been told in different parts of the world but using media. Okay, so you see how you are this person who is going to be some sort of continuing the legacy of cooperation between your country and Japan. Even for students that are studying, for example, agriculture, you want to go study in your country, you've lived on a rice farm, growing rice and everything, and you know that in Japan, the technologies that they use to grow rice is extremely advanced. So you're interested in coming to Japan to see what is it about how they grow their rice, which makes it very different. So you see, this is your justifying, first of all, the major that you want to study, why you want to study that major in Japan, and then contributing to the future. You're coming and you're discussing the aspect of, I want to, by the time I'm done with my program, I would like to see how we can integrate some of the technologies from Japan to rice cultivation in whatever part of the world you're from. So you see how you link it all together, right? So I give you all so many prompts in the worksheets, but I just want to tell you all like a bit of the things that how you should be thinking about it when you answer these particular questions, because this form the core aspect of your application. Now let's get on to the interesting part, which is the field of study and research plan. Here you have to fill in your name, your nationality, past study, and then your research theme and your research plan. And I am going to be reading mine, and I'm going to be giving you comments about the things that I think that I did well and the things that I think that I didn't do so well and what you should learn from it, okay? Oh my good, like I've taken, this is it, and I wanted to show you all on the screen, but it's so I need to sort of block the, it's not going to help. Anywho, so this is 2014. This is what I submitted to the Japanese government, and it gets me a little bit emotional thinking about it, because this is the paper that changed my life. This is the paper that moved me from living in a very small town to Tokyo, and I hope that this helps you all, okay? I hope that this helps you all, because I think that as a kid growing up, hoping that you want to make your life better, hoping that you want to make the life of your family members better, sometimes if there is that thought of maybe it's never going to happen, right? And then you write a paper and that paper practically changes your life for forever. So don't mind me getting emotional about this, but let's get right to it, okay? So my topic was the lack of data in accessibility and inclusion of persons with disabilities in international cooperation and development, the case of rural and urban communities. This is an amazing topic, but the thing is, the topic is too general. Like right now, looking back as a doctor, right now, I would have had so many questions. Like, first of all, what do you mean by rural and urban communities? Are you going to study what is the sample size of your population? Rural and urban communities can be the whole country. So what do you mean by rural and urban communities? This is too broad. So let me read the introduction, okay? It says, in knowledge-based economy, statistics have gained ground as one of the instruments capable of capturing the world in both its static and dynamic forms. I was onto something. As more and more statistics become widespread, especially in decision-making process, the demand for official statistics has been increasing. Official statistics are more than just a series of numbers, as they provide strong evidence to policymakers to make decisions and allow progress towards agreed goals to be monitored and measured. I was writing something here. All right. They become key components of governance at national and international level. Thus, cooperation in statistics has gradually become an integral part of broader development policies. Developing and strengthening international cooperation in statistics suit both the needs of the beneficiaries and the donors. The report of the United Nations Secretary General states realization of the Millennium Development Goals and internationally agreed development goals for persons with disability, a disability inclusive development agenda towards 2015 and beyond, provides recommendations on priority areas for inclusion in the outcome of high-level meeting on disability and development, and the first key issue identified for inclusion in disability inclusive post 2015 development framework was improved disability data and statistics. So this is what I wrote. This is what I wrote as an introduction. And the thing about it is that first, my study area, studying about persons with disabilities, is something that people want people to go study about persons with disabilities, right? People want more people to, they know that this is an area that is underserved. They know that this is an area that not many people are studying. So when they see somebody that comes up and wants to study something related to persons with disability, of course, let's give this person a chance. So first of all, I had an advantage based on the major that I chose to study. Then the second thing is that data is something like, if we don't have data about a particular topic, then it's like, how do we solve the problem? How do we help, right? So choosing the topic of the lack of data for the lack of data in studying like persons with disabilities, it's a problem, because if we do not figure out how do we get the data, then how do we take decisions about helping these people? So the topic itself is juicy enough, and also there is the idea of, I mentioned the Millennium Development Goals. These are Millennium Development Goals. Now it has changed to, what is it, Sustainable Development Goals, I think is the SDGs now. So these are buzzwords that governments are interested in, international organizations are interested in. So you see that I'm mentioning this thing. So if you can integrate those buzzwords, like what is the world struggling with right now, you integrate those buzzwords. Also, be smart with the topic that you choose. Don't just go with any topic. Think about it very well. Choose the topic right. And the statement of the problem. I'm not going to read all of it because it's going to take too long, but I talked about since the Millennium Declaration and the drafting or an adoption of its convention, the need to include persons with disabilities in international development agenda has gained increased international recognition. So you see this sense of persons with disabilities, inclusion, including persons with disabilities to the entire development agenda. That is something that all governments will be interested in. So make sure that your topic is a topic that is broad enough. In the worksheet, I give you all ideas on things that you can do to come up with broad enough topics, but you see how it cuts across. So, and then I'll go to the statement of the purpose, and then you have to discuss the research questions. So my research questions were, what are the effects of the lack of data on the communication capabilities of persons with disabilities in rural areas? Makes no sense. What are the effects of a lack of data on the economic capabilities of persons with disabilities in rural communities? Makes no sense. Not that it doesn't make no sense, but the thing is that I started by discussing lack of data with reference to international communities, including persons with disabilities. But now here I am in the research questions talking about communication capabilities of persons with disabilities in rural areas. How would this question help me answer? How would these research questions help me answer my topic? Like how does it link to it? I think the Japanese scholarship providers, I think they were very kind, because right now as a doctor, after gone through my entire master's PhD thesis, I'm looking at this and I'm like, what exactly was she trying to say? This makes no sense. Let's get to the methodology. I wrote there that this is 2014, you guys. So just spare young me who didn't know no better. So it says quantitative research methods will be used, focusing on a comparative analysis approach. Multiple sources will be used to collect data and analyze data. This include questionnaires, interviews, observation. This is okay because quantitative research methods focusing on a comparative analysis approach. So you see how I'm extremely specific with it, comparative analysis approach, which means I'm having a sense of, okay, I'll use this broader method, but specifically this is what I'll do. And then more specifically, these include questionnaires, interviews, observations. So that is something that someone will be like, all right, this is good. And then anticipated result. It is anticipated that the result will show a higher level of accessibility of inclusion of persons with disabilities in the urban areas than in the rural areas. Also, the actual problems of persons with disabilities in rural areas will be discovered, and the research findings will help the researcher provide contributions on strategies that can be developed to effectively include persons with disabilities in international cooperation and development. So that is what I wrote. I think my anticipated result, it also still doesn't make any sense. And the reason why I say that is because I started off with talking about international cooperation and inclusion of persons with disabilities. So my questions would have been leading me towards how do we do more research on the data, and how do we link that to international cooperation. So when you're talking about communications for persons with disabilities, it's like, where is the data? Or I said here that effectively include persons with in international cooperation and development. Where is the data? Where is the data? That is still the problem, right? Like you started off with one topic and you're ending off with another topic. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I don't know how. I don't know how they were able to just like. I think that one of the reasons why they did was because one, my study area as a whole, special needs education, is something that people are interested in. So make sure that the study area you choose is something that people are interested in. And secondly, the topic, the main topic, data and persons with disabilities, and including them in Millennium Development Goals. Those are the buzzwords that are extremely important. So make sure that you put as many buzzwords as possible in yours, and also make sure that do better. Don't write as I did, because mine wasn't that good, but do better in making sure that all of the parts that you write, they tie in together. The other thing that I want to talk to you all about is, yes, they are going to do a screening of your documents and everything, but you are going to have to write an exam. You are going to write an English exam and a Japanese exam. So this is an example of the exam here. We have 2016 qualifying exams in English, and here research students, and it is actually, I think it's 60 questions that you have to answer in 60 minutes, and they have like multiple choices. They have reading comprehension, and they have different sections that you have to answer. What I'll advise here is that be extremely fast and practice, you guys. You see here, this is an example of a past question. So get these past questions, set a timer, see if you can do the 60 questions within the 60 minutes. There are tons of past questions, you guys. I'm going to put links to all the past questions in the worksheets, like over the years, so you can practice as much as possible. So practice with it. Make sure that you can get at least at least 50 plus questions within the 60 minutes, okay? Because you don't submit IELTS or TOEFL, but they want you to write that exam at the embassy with them watching you to see how good you perform, okay? So this is the exam. Practice as much as possible. And then we have the Japanese exam. This is the Japanese exam that you have to write. They also have past questions for the Japanese exam, but to be honest, when I did like the Japanese exam, I tried to learn Japanese when I started applying for the Japanese government. I wanted to learn it, but everywhere that I walked around my country, I couldn't find any place that I could learn Japanese. There were tons of places where I could learn Chinese language centers. I could learn Chinese language, but there was no place to study Japanese. I even contacted the embassy, and they were like, we are sorry, we don't have it. So I was like, what do I do? Of course, there were options to learn online, but I was like, how much can I learn that will help me really write an exam? So I gave up. When it was time to write this exam, this Japanese exam, I just went through these questions, and I was like, A, B, C, okay, A. C, D, okay, A. A, C, okay, B. Like, I was just doing guesswork throughout the entire thing, and I finally submitted it. So they will not really judge you very, if you don't, if you will go through the regular Japanese language course when you come to Japan. They will not really judge you too strictly on how you perform, because they understand that students around the world have never learned Japanese before. They don't expect these students to perform. So do not judge yourself too hard if you cannot get through it. Just make sure you go through all the questions and randomly pick and choose whichever one you think that is going to get you to the answers. Okay, the other part of the entire process that is extremely important is the interview. For the interview, what I'm going to say is dress smart, like look good enough, and dress nicely. And also remember a question that I just checked that question like 2 minutes before I got in, and it was one of the main questions that they asked me. Was like, oh yeah, you filled your application form and you chose your university of preferences, like you preferred this university, this university, this university. So can you tell us what are the universities that you chose, and in what order were they? And I checked this like 2 minutes before I got in. And so please remember the universities you choose, because if they asked me that question 10 minutes earlier, I shouldn't have known the answer. So remember the universities that you choose. I had not been familiar with universities in Japan, so I really didn't remember the names. But in that 2 minutes when I looked at it, I was like, okay, these are the names, these are the names, these are the names. So make sure that preference, make sure you remember that. Also, they are going to ask you a lot of questions about, remember the core of the question, what I was talking to you all about. First of all, why did you choose that major? Why are you going to study that major in Japan? And how are you going to contribute towards Japan and your home country? You guys, that is the key. These questions, these 3 questions, together with the ranking of the universities that you've chosen. Then of course they can ask you other questions, but these 4 questions, this is the core of it. Make sure you prepare for this as much as possible. Okay, so you've gone through this entire process and you've submitted all your documents and you've written the Japanese exam, the English exam. Then they are going to get back to you with the first screening. If you're chosen for the first screening, then you are now going to have a battle of your life, which is the battle to get a letter of acceptance from the university. They require that at the time that you submitted your application, you had to have done like research on which are the universities in Japan that offer your program, which are the professors. In the worksheets, I'm going to put a link there on the student where you can get to figuring out the list of universities in Japan, the English programs that you can study, and also how to search for professors. I'm just going to put some links there for you that it can help you all to get to it. So this takes the longest period, because here now you're wanting the university, you're informing the university that I've passed the primary screening at the embassy, but now I want a letter of acceptance from the university. So now the university, you're going back and forth. This takes a long time before you get that acceptance letter. So when you get that acceptance letter, then you come back to the embassy. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please consider subscribing to the channel, and also please share this video with some people, a friend, a brother, a sister, an auntie, an uncle, someone in your local church, someone in your local community, anybody that is looking for a fully funded scholarship, master students, professional students, any of those people, share this video with them. And anybody thinking about studying in Japan or applying for the MEXT Japanese Government Scholarship, please do want to share this video with them. Thank you so much. I'm going to see you all in the next one. Cheers.